Hello, Chicago and Haptic Media workshop participants. I'm Professor Erkki Huhtamo from Department of Design Media Arts at UCLA. As you see, I unfortunately will have to join you only virtually today for the reason that I have a very tight writing deadline in the end of this month, and I just simply couldn't unfortunately spare these days this week. But I would like to share you a couple of thoughts about how I understand haptic and tactile media. I tend to use the word tactile in my research because haptic is so often in research we see associated with something called the haptic gaze. So haptic gaze obviously is different from what I understand by tactile, because it is a way of assigning certain kind of tangible qualities to the act of looking. So this is a history that goes back to the late 19th century. For example, assigning certain paintings and sculptures this kind of haptic qualities, and also seeing haptic as a feature of the way of looking, in a way embracing certain kind of visual images as if we were touching them materially with our hands. I think that it is really important to sort of like concentrate on the tactile side of these things, whether we talk about the art history or the history of media and technology in general, because this aspect has been normally, until recently, been definitely neglected or even suppressed, I guess. So the visual and then the sound studies have dominated the field. So we need to sort of like restore the tactile quality to these stories that we talk about. And I think that this is what this workshop partly is all about. So let me share just a couple of ideas about that idea. In my text, which was, I think you have read, which is called Twin Touch the Test Redux, I tried to make a kind of an experiment rethinking the history of the art in the 20th century from the point of view of touch. And that obviously means that we get to quite a different type of history. So my main example would be this piece by Friedrich Kiesler and Marcel Duchamp, which was in the form of a sort of like price context for magazines, so a very ironic context, but actually not only raising a context which would be about the sensations of touching chicken wire, but actually publishing in a magazine where there was actual piece of chicken wire in the back cover. So you actually could do this test in a very, very tactile way. So very complex artwork, which became a kind of a key to that article that I wrote. I think we can also look at these things from a much broader point of view. And in that sense, we could, for example, take these kind of optical machines and devices like a zoetrope, which is hand operated. In my way of thinking, these things are very much part of the whole longer trajectory of tactile media. And obviously we have many media artists like Toshio Iwai and others who have been highly influenced by that idea. So here it is not only the fact that you put it spinning, but the fact that you feel the drum and its texture in your hands that I think matters. The same thing could be said when we look at the very earliest times of the movies. This is Oak Kinora viewer from England about 1903. And basically here the movie is animated by turning a crank, sometimes holding the device like from this bar here. And so you actually have a very corporeal experience which is linked and connected with that visual, and actually also auditive in the sense that you can hear the flipping of these picture reels in your hand. So for me, these ideas went against the development of the mass media that is one of the big media stories of the 20th century. And it is interesting to see how in recent decades the coming of interactive media, so whether we think about smartphone interfaces or iPads or game consoles or anything, in a way has reconnected with those earlier ideas. Of course, there we have many important questions related with this, and one of them would be the sort of like force feedback technology. How much does it matter that you actually get some kind of a sensible feedback connection from that device itself? I think that this is a topic we could talk about in terms of those Apple's touchpads in the generations of recent laptops, you know, where this sort of like the idea about like this sensing and going into a depth has been added. How much does it matter? This is a much bigger talk that I cannot raise more than this. But I will just like to show you, these are very short introductions, I know, show a couple of pieces that in my way of doing research already for quite a long time have been highly inspirational, and one of them would be Nintendo's Power Glove, which was of course one of those early commercial virtual reality interfaces which was introduced around 1990. So here in multiple ways we actually talk about tactile connection, because you in a way develop a kind of a tactility with those objects you touch within the virtual world by means of this kind of interactive interface. But at the same time Nintendo also added the traditional Famicom gamepad here, which is another one. So seemingly simple devices actually, when we take them materially, lead to rather complicated relationships between the world of media, between the interface, the device itself, and so on. Maybe finally, as an inspiration, I would like to show you one more thing, which is here. This is Otamatone, which is a work by the Japanese media artist group Meiwa Denki, which is actually highly successful and also for sale. And this is a very interesting and sort of like enigmatic object in many ways, because on the one hand this is a musical instrument, like you can hear from this. But it's also a media arts object in much more complex ways, and here the fascination has to do with issues that actually make musical instruments highly tactile. But it also has to do with added features like this little vibrato that you create with these and so on. So I think that these are just some of the very, very few fragments and elements on that history of tactile media that is being written, I think, but which is only incompletely sort of like achieved at this point. So the topic is linked with multiple layers and ultimately in the sort of like interrelationships between the whole sensorium. And as I said before in the beginning of this little introduction, it is something that comes from a certain kind of a sort of like suppressed or neglected angle. And obviously I'm a media archaeologist. From my point of view, it is a perfect topic for media archaeology, because media archaeology definitely looks at things that have been sort of like pushed to the corners and cellars of media history, and which we claim often wait for a chance to come back to sort of like kind of question these accepted narratives that our understanding of media history is based on. So with this, I wish good luck for the workshop and hope that these ideas will be talked about within your session. And all the best, and enjoy your time in Chicago. Bye.